Okay, so this is just the general Q&A portion of the SNARS monthly meeting on February 6, 2021. Open forum for anybody about anything. Go for it. Who's got
Hi.
questions?
Hi, this is Jim, W6US.
Hey there.
Getting back there to your ferrites on your USB cable. Did you notice there's a ferrite hanging off my mouse? I got everything in the shack that's got a cable to it. There's clip-on ferrites on both ends of all cables. And you need to do that to get rid of a lot of noise and interference, especially now that I've got a new 1200 amplifier sitting here on the desk. And when I go to 1,000 watts, it tends to get into things. So I can really say those help. You can get them out of Mouser. Mouser has a pretty good selection of them. The Ferrite, FAIRRITE brand has about the best ones around. You get the proper mix. 31 mix is usually what the best one is. So that's a good one to work on. Thanks.
You got it, guys. Here's ferrites here, all kinds of them. You need them sometimes.
I have a question for you, Jim, about the mix. There's these numbers. How does one know what is the right number for different types of RFI applications? You know, I have no clue.
Well, the 31 mix, 3-1 mix is probably the best general all-around one to use for that. There's other mixes, 46, some others. You can get I buy them by the dozen or so, 10 at a time. The price is cheaper if you buy them in bulk and they simply, they come flattened off and you just simply snap them around the cable. It'll fold up around the cable. You size them to fit whatever cable you're putting them on. I have them in various sizes, but I'd say the 31 mix is probably the best bet for high frequency interference problems.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, they do. Everybody should have a bag of mixed ones for sure. You never know what's going to happen. Take them with you.
Okay, what other comments, questions people have? Just general anything. Go for it.
Huh. Nothing? Wow. Let's have some X-Spirit. What's going on here? Hey, Jerry. Hey, man, unmute.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so that new radio you got there, you say you're going to use it for SOTA on the air, and what else you going to use it for while you trip, while you're running around with it?
Well, we're going to be headed back to Mississippi this summer to go to a family reunion for my wife, and I want to be able to have the nice compact unit, up and running, working by then, full knowledge, and use it on the road to make various contacts. That's that's a long-term goal. Short-term goal is to get on the Parks on the Air, just again, familiarize myself with everything and get it up and running for the trip.
Oh, well, there you go. And, that's the main thing. It's a small, compact, and you can be able to get out no problem. What kind of antenna are you going to plan to use? Just roof mount?
Well, right now, I did buy one of the Wolf River coils, and I tested it out yesterday. And here in Smith Valley, we kind of, unless you really have the power, you don't get the signals and the conversations like our friend John Abrott does. So that's why I want to get out of the valley, go to, like I say, go up to Churchill, Fort Churchill, or somewhere like that, and really get this Wolf River coil working. Yesterday, we were just playing with it, and I was getting 1-to-1 on the SWR on the 40 meters. The 80 meters was, a little bit higher, but I just got to play with it and get it dialed in.
Are you using a tuner or just resin antennas?
Resonant right now. I have looked at some of the tuners. It seems like there's new ones coming out every day, and I'm just kind of holding back a little bit to see the reviews on that and see what other people have. For right now, just go Resonant.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all
Yeah,
right.
that
Yeah.
that one that's about the size of a pack of cigarettes. They now they just updated it and put a battery pack inside it. Do yourself a big favor and stay away from that one. I can tell you right now, I don't know how many people have that thing. They opened it up and it was just a pile of parts inside it.
Oh my God.
The quality control on that thing is horrible. The LDG, that LDG one works like a charm. It's perfect. And it's, 175, I think.
Okay.
Speaking of resin antennas and going outside, if you're in the area like the Sierras where there's trees, you can make or buy a pneumatic tennis ball launcher. It looks like a tuba, and you put some compressed air in it. In my case, it's luggable, and my compressed air is I have one of those older jump batteries that is a big 20 amp battery inside of a jump battery to jump your car. It has a compressor. So you take this thing, it has a tennis ball, it's called a pneumatic tennis ball launcher. You can build them yourself or just buy them. And you take this thing and you load it up, and there's this line on the front. You take it and you go, poof, and if this is the tree, it goes, and goes over the tree. So it's got weight in it. And they sliced it open, they put some weight in it. So it just goes right over the tree. Now, if the wind's blowing, it's a little off. And then on the other side, I cut the line and I pulled the tennis ball off, and then I put a rope on it, and I go like this. So if I'm up in Tahoe or the Sierra somewhere, and you got a 60, 70, 80, 90-foot tree, maybe 90's high, 60, 70 feet, you put a rope up. You do two of those. You put some sort of wire up, a dipole, a long wire, or whatever. And now at 70 feet, that sucker plays. Now, if you've got a really good antenna and you got less power, oh, there we go. Show us that. That's a manual one. Turn on your mic, Jim, and show us that.
I can give you a little tip about that. You don't want to do that at the Marvin Piccolo School in Reno. The police will show up with their guns drawn.
You guys must have had an experience with the QRP group there.
Just a little tip from the QRP guys. Yeah. It was they couldn't believe it. They were like, what do you people do? How do you have keys to the school? It's the middle of the night. What are you doing here? And then they saw the bazooka we were using to shoot things into a tree. And just another day at QRP.
There you go.
Well, with the slingshot, I usually have a fishing rod, and I'm pulling the line out of the fishing rod when I shoot it over the tree, and they really look at you at that point.
Yeah,
Fishing for leaves. Yes, there you go.
exactly.
Hope you get
I
big.
use ham sticks, 2 ham sticks for a band, and I put it on a tripod, and so I'm carrying it downstairs in my apartment. I'm going to put it in the car, and people, I got like 10 of them or 5 of them together, and say, it looks like a fishing pole. What are you doing fishing? I said, yep, I'm fishing,
I'm digging in the bag here. Here's a 20-meter whip that just screws onto things.
Mhm.
I guess you could call this resident.
Yeah.
Do you use a little ground point? Do you use a counterpoise at all?
Yeah. There's a spot off the radio for a counterpoise.
Many years
That's
ago,
another
I was
30
down at
feet.
many years ago, it was at Pacificon, and somebody had a small radio like one of these. They didn't make this one at the time. And Bonnie, I can't think of her last name. She did a lot of HF PAC, which was portable stuff. She got a small balloon, maybe a party balloon or a weather balloon, put some helium on it, put a 32-foot wire up in one direction, a 32-foot on the ground, and she got on 40 meters. So that's another way to play.
When they had it at when they had Pacificon at Santa Clara, I shot a wire into a tree out of my room, and we had a pretty good time there.
Any other questions about anything? We've got a little time to be with each other.
Well, Barry, I have a question. Barry?
Go for it. Go
All
for
right.
it, Jerry.
Since you guys are assembled and everything like that, I had a question the other day when I was out there testing that Wolf River coil for the SWR. Early in the morning, I had the radios stretched out and they were on top of the snow, and I was getting the 1-to-1 readings and things like that. Later on in the day, a friend came over, Murney, KJ7OGE from down the road here, and I wanted to show him that, and so he wanted to see it as well. By that time, the radials had kind of sunk into the snow, and we moved the antenna, and it was hard to get the radials out without a pull. And the SWR had gone up to like 3 or 4 with them embedded in the snow. Would that make a difference?
Good question. Anybody got some ideas?
Your SWR went up, you say?
Yes, it did. And like in the afternoon, once we took the radials and put them back on top of the snow, the SWR went down to reasonable.
How far? Let me ask you this: how much was the snowpack in inches?
3 inches.
Okay, it's a pretty small amount. I do know there's something called an elevated radial. That's elevated, but it's only elevated 3 inches off the ground. It could be that. I mean, I've seen many a time where they just have it on the ground, so it could have something to do with that it's elevated. It could do that the snow may be impacting the conductivity of the snow may be impacting it too, because it's very conductive, right? It's water based.
Well, the radios I've got on that BTV are laying on the ground in the
Right.
sand, and when they get wet, I don't see a difference.
When they were laying on the ground, but then, like I say, as time goes on, you know, the snow is
Right.
melting and it's going lower.
And does your antenna adjust? Tell us about the antenna itself, not the radials.
It's the Wolf River coil where you manually move the.
So
The
probably
little-
what's happened is you had it tuned, then the snow melted, it changed the impedance of the radials, and so therefore you'd have to retune the antenna.
To retune.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk
That's the
about that Wolf River coil needing, it's a little sensitive, kind of like the other sets of coils on those antennas. Who's our other guy that makes those antennas with the coils on them? Can't think of his name. He had that same, I have one of those, and I'm constantly having to move the coils when I use that thing.
Yeah. One of the things about you do something like that, like, you have to you just don't expect to get a flat band all the way through. Okay, through the band. Yeah, you may have to retune maybe 2 or 3 times or even more just to get keep it resonant, or keep your radio happy. Let's put it that way. Okay, because I've gone on 40 and got on using my 40 meter antenna to get on 80. And my bandwidth is about the if you turn the dime sideways. That's how big my bandwidth is. Okay, so anytime I move, I breathe on it too hard, my SWR goes up. So in this situation, like I says, at any point, it says depending on what part of the spectrum the band you are, is depending on what's going to happen down the end. But you got to be mindful of that, and you may have to, like I said, you just have to do multiple tunes. It's a pain in the ass, but that's radio for you.
Yeah, so I'm looking online at the Wolf River coil. It's just a coil. So what happens is the antenna is half of the antenna. The antenna itself is half, and the ground radials are the other half. So if the things change in the ground radials, which probably they did, the antenna changes. That's probably the reason why.
Great.
When I'm out at Winnemucca, I have 30 radials out on a vertical, and if it rains, I have to retune. If it's really totally dry been dry for a week, I got to retune. It all varies depending upon the ground moisture, including snow out there.
Oh, Jerry,
Yes, sir.
I definitely drop me an email, because I've got a loop antenna that sits on your desk and you can use as well. That I got. Yeah, I think and it's really cool looking. It sits on a little camera tripod on the top of a desk. It's small. It'll do up to 40 meters.
All right. And Chuck, I have emailed you.
Good deal.
Thank you.
No problem.
We'll go about maybe 15 more minutes max and cut it off by 10 so we can get on with our day. Anybody else have the questions, thoughts, comments, anything? This is the time to be with each other. Let's see if Rod Dunbar, I see you're here. Are you next to your radio? I mean, next to your Zoom? Haven't seen you for a long while. You might have walked away.
No, I'm here, Barry.
Yeah, how are you? And how's life?
Oh, pretty good. Hanging in there.
Hello,
Are you still commuting, or did you move to Yerington?
No, I'm not. I'm doing consulting work. I'm not working in Yerington anymore.
Okay. You still your same old other TTH?
Yep, still South Reno.
Okay, good to have you on. Thanks for being here.
No, thanks.
Well,
there's 3 contests going on right now. The British Columbia QSO party, the Vermont QSO party, and the Minnesota party, and the bands are horrible.
They are.
I've made about 3 contacts during the course of the meeting, so but hopefully the bands will open up a little bit and be able to get a few more contacts. But it is kind of fun to get on there and dig them out. The Minnesota folks, a lot of them are going mobile in the snowstorm up there, and they're having a lot of fun.
So that's a good example of operating skills. So maybe you're using, how much power are you running? 1,000 with your amp?
Well, it varies. I generally try to hit them with 50 watts, which is the drive power for my amplifier. But if I'm not getting through after a couple of calls, then I kick the amp on and around 1,000 watts.
Yeah. What amp are you using, Jim?
AL 1200.
Yeah. You know, the whole conversation, for everybody who's still on or listening to the recording, the whole conversation about operating skills does not just apply to QRP. It's that when conditions are not perfect, you got to do a little extra heavy lifting, you know? And that's what's cool about ham radio. It's not totally plug and play.
No, it's not.
There was a discussion a little bit ago about USB cables. One place I have found that actually has some pretty good USB cables available is a company called Lcom, lcom.com. And I was just looking on their website. They've got pretty much any combination you want, but you can get the shielded. I think they've got 1 foot to 15 foot with ferrites on them, and they're not terribly priced, but that is one place you can go to get a USB cable with the ferrites already on it.
Good to know.
You know, one of the other things you can do with those ferrites, and what I found to be most effective, I was running 2 repeaters, 4 FTM 400s, a 9700, all this right here behind me in my shack, in the rack. And of course, running the RSBA1 software with the ICOM 9700 and the 7610. Tons of problems at first. So I got the larger ferrites, the 31s. They are the most common. If you can find 43s, go with those, but you probably won't. Go with the 31s and get the larger ones so you can run it a loop. Run your, I got one I can show. You want to run it in a loop like that. That will give you the best results for your ferrites. You're not only creating a loop, which is going to block, but you're also using the ferrites. So that's the most effective method. I play with them all, and as much power as I had in my shack and radiation issues, there's no such thing as a clean repeater, trust me. That seemed to be the best for me. On the subject of the 705 radios, don't forget, it may be only a 10-watt output and designate for QRP, but you can put a linear on there.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have, you got the best of both worlds. I got rid of my 7610. There was just too much stuff on that for me to deal with. And I'm looking at the 705 right now, but I've got an ACOM 1200S.
There you go.
And a linear that I will be running with that if I decide to go that route.
Probably get good 250 watts or more out of it.
1200S with 5 watts pushing it will give you on 110 volts, you get 600 watts.
That's right.
What is 12 and what is 10 watts into it give you?
You play with it. 10 watts, I don't know because I haven't put it on there to see it, but I ran my 7610 at about 3% power and 110 volts through the ACOM and got 600 watts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with you got to have a clean antenna.
Yeah.
But you're going to have that hopefully at home.
Yeah.
And the other subject is I want to mention was people using coil loaded antennas for QRP. You got a very, very narrow bandwidth. I might have been the person that you're speaking to about coil loading. I built MVIS antennas that were coil loaded. I designed my own coils. That's quite the project to do, to come up with something great. But when you work with coil loaded antennas, shortened coil, that's what the only reason you're using a coil is to make an antenna think it's longer.
Yeah.
You're going to narrow your bandwidth. And so if you can get into tunable coil, and there's several of them out there, there's a lot of bumper mount antennas that are tunable and they actually twist. So you can change the coil to tune it. But when you're using those, you're going to get your SWRs down, but also check to see what your return loss is. If you have a good, good decent antenna analyzer, you should be able to see what your return loss is, because your return loss is telling you how much going out and how much is staying back.
Yeah.
And that will tell you what your true output is. You might have 10 watts with a 3-to-1 ratio, and you're like, hey, I got 10 watts of tuned. Great, fine. But your return loss is like 7%. So that's all you got going out. That's what you lost. And the loss side is what actually is going out. So you see 7%, well, 7% out of an antenna is only 1 watt if you're pushing 10. So those are some things to consider with the QRP stuff. But then it's tough to work it. But when you get it dialed in, it's a blast. And I loved it.
It is a blast. The satisfaction is higher because you have to work harder. You're talking about amplifiers. So the Elecraft line, their KX3 is a 15-watt radio, and their KX2 is a 10-watt radio. They have this KPA 100.
Yeah.
It's a 110-watt radio amp. I mean, it's pricey, and it's got a tuner built in. But it's an interesting concept because
It's $1,200.
yeah, a lot of dough. But
It's $1,200 for a 100-watt amp.
Yeah, but their concept, and you could use it with the 705, is
Right.
between their different pieces. You could buy one radio, a lot of cost, but you can configure it. Say, I'm only going to bring the KX3 out in the field, or I'm going to bring the KX3 and the TX3 over to my friend's house, or so the plug and play pieces. But it is expensive because that little amp is as
It's
expensive
$1,200.
almost as expensive as it's a 705, and it's more expensive than an ICOM 7300. But it's a good way to go. Now, Chuck, you're talking about some of these amps that are a few $100s. You're talking about maybe Chinese or Rice Rocket knockoff type things.
Right. The
In the
Chinese
$200.
stuff that you see floating around. I have that ICOM amplifier. And
Have you hooked it up yet to your 7300?
no, I haven't. But it took me a long time to buy that thing because, I'm generally not incredibly price sensitive when I want something.
Your wife's on the
Yeah, no, she already knows. No big surprise to her. But that thing was incredibly painful to buy. And when you mentioned it the other day, I still cringe when I see that thing. What it cost.
Because of the price, or what?
Yeah, I mean it worked well, but my God, it was expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, but now you've had it over. You have several aircraft radios, and you can probably use it with this radio. It'd be
I could,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Tell
I
you
bought.
what, good.
Oh, go ahead, there, Wes.
I just say, it says Pete, AC7 Yankee
What?
there. He has a hell of a linear, about quite a bit of money, and he puts 8 watts in, he gets 1,200 watts out.
Yeah, but it's a big
Wow.
box. It's not a portable box.
Oh no, it's not. No, you don't want to carry this thing around.
Well, you don't want to drag that Elcraft amp around, that 100 watt either. It's
But
big.
It's
It's just like a loaf of bread.
well,
Yeah.
by the time you take the Elecraft amp, and you take the PX3 monitor, and you take the Elecraft, if you could put it and sandwich it into a physical box as if it was one rectangle box, which you can't, it'd be bigger than a 7300.
Right.
Probably maybe the size of the 73 if you could remush everything and make it
Right.
rectangle.
No, it's pretty close. I've got the entire KX3 line,
Mhm.
and it was nice when I was using it, but I certainly like this more.
Yeah. I bought, okay, so years ago I did a lot of, before Summits in the Air, there's Island on the Air. And I brought a big 811A, big tube thing out there. And
Right.
it was just, I brought it out too many times. So I finally bought a small Chinese whatever. It wasn't even tuned. The box is about, yay so big. And it was like $300. The thing is, it's just a broadband amp. I had to put a tuner as input to make it work correctly. But you can get a lot of stuff to work. The other thing is, if you start adding an amp, even if it's not a lot of power, 30, 40, 50 watts, you now have to either have a power supply or a big enough battery. So if you go into the field, as you add more power, you need more
Weight.
power supply, battery.
Yeah.
So where the more power helps, if you're talking portability or hiking in particular or luggability, the weight and the amount of stuff there's a crossover. And the reason why I think there's a lot of these different QRP radios, some are small kits, some of them are 817, 818, some are the Elecraft, 15 watts or less, some of this one. I think the reason it has a fit is that more people are going outside and doing Summits in the Air, or they want to go out for the afternoon to the park. Now, here's an example. There's a small little device called the KX1. It's a small, tiny thing. But years ago, I met a fellow that had 2 young kids, and he had a very busy life. He'd take the kids out to the park in the morning. He'd bring his little QRP thing. They were playing. He'd get 20 minutes of HF time. So I think, you guys can tell me what you think, more people, not necessarily more people are all doing QRP, but they're using things out in the field. They're playing, they're going on hikes, they're trying different stuff. Part of that maybe there's just more equipment, but part of it is they're just doing things differently. And, if you take a 100-watt radio, there's nothing wrong with it. I lug mine out, and Wes, you do yours with your power supply or your generator or whatever. It's great. It's just more luggable. So you get a weight size distribution versus a how much power and cost distribution curves.
Yeah. I'm all solar now there, Barry. I don't.
There you go.
Well, I might, if I ever give myself, it's got air conditioning in it. I may take the generator out, but outside that, I'll be using solar.
There you go. Well, I think we're going
to talking about
go ahead, Jim.
chokes. This is
Oh,
common mode choke that I use when I have a long feed line.
Yeah.
Because the jacket of the coax will pick up noise and that sort of thing. I have a 100-footer out at Winnemucca that I need to quiet, and this does the job on quieting it. Again, we're looking at multiple turns on a 31 toroid ferrite, and it does a real number. It's about almost S unit and a half on the noise.
How much did that cost you, Jim?
These run about $15, and I don't know. I just wrapped it with some coax that I had. And
Right.
Where do you put it in relation to the antenna, Jim?
The short one here goes right smack on the back of the radio, and then I hook the other end onto the coax, and that seems to do the best job.
That's great.
No, yeah. It's all about nothing but silent communication.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. Any closing thoughts by anybody before we say 7:03? We've been on for a couple hours.
Yeah. How about Chatty Cathy over there? Hey, Dan, what do you got anything to say? Yeah, I'm talking to you, Dan.
No, you're doing all the talking.
Yeah, well, that's what hams do, talk.
I know. I hear it all the time.
I gotta go buy some ferrites.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And
Well,
Kim learned anything new about Chuck today that you didn't know about in the interview?
No, I know it all, unfortunately, or
Yeah.
fortunately. Yeah.
Well, you're very smart being a ham, joining him versus fighting him. Good for you.
Exactly.
you
I
guys
don't know anything about anything yet, but
Yeah, but you know what? You can give a good bullshit session, though. You know what I'm saying? You
I
can,
do accept
yeah,
those.
you can. You can get out there and play. You know what I mean? Let them think you know, oh man, she's a genius. Man, you hear her talk, you know what I mean?
Hey,
She knows her
hey,
crap.
when the other night when I got the picture thing going on, and it makes a little beeping sound when a guy is transmitting a picture. She was like, "What is that?" And I go, there's a picture that every time after that, when the beeping started, I could see her gravitating toward the picture to see what was coming in. So
Well,
she's getting there.
Maybe you need 2 705 so you can send pictures to each
Yeah.
other.
There you go.
my favorite thing is he has the soda and the little goat makes a noise, I guess,
Yeah,
when somebody's on there.
the soda goat.
I don't know why. That's my
Oh yeah,
favorite.
when somebody does an activation, you hear a little goat make a bay noise.
I heard it a couple of times today, so you must have your phone in there.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, and I heard it go off, and I was like,
Was that what
"Up
that
that
was? Huh, I heard it in the background.
who to look for."
Hmm?
Yeah, it tells you who to look for, so you know when you hear the goat, you check the phone and you can see the frequency they're on and where they're at.
Cool. To try to get a hold of it and try it out. Because like I said, I'm gonna give that I'm gonna give that QRP stuff. I'm gonna give it a try. Because I think I might have the patience now after doing all the other stuff. So we will see. You know what I mean?
That was the most amazing thing I heard, was that Wes is interested in the QRP. I told Chuck I never thought that would happen.
You're right. I would have thought either, but you know what? Like I says, I've played with the power and all this kind of stuff. I mean, like I said, I do pretty well with what I've got. And I'm not, I don't win nothing. That's okay. I go out there and have fun. And,
Right.
yeah, I mean, one thing is, I mean, I know I have the knowledge to put, with operating this stuff, I mean, how to use the equipment. That's what I want to do. It's a challenge, more of a challenge. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's what I'm looking. That's what I want to try, because I got the rate. I just cranked on the power. You know what I mean, that's all I got to do.
Come on, Wes, it's gonna be that big 2-meter AM thing we're gonna do. Going to Pacificon, we're going 2-meter
Go buy a
AM in the
bunch of
hotel room.
Go buy a bunch of old Goonie birds,
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Uh-huh. But I can do it on my TS2000.
There you go.
Yeah.
See? Oh, there you go.
I think you should keep your 2000 and you should just crank it to 5 or 10 watts, and now you got your QRP radio.
Well, I got the 891. Small pack.
Your 881 doesn't do VHF.
No, that's good. No. Well, I ain't gonna lug that heavy bastard out there. No way in hell. No, that thing's too heavy, man.
Well, I got a skedoodle, so I'm gonna say 7-3. Thanks for hanging around and being here for this last little session.
Yeah, it's good to see people out there. Yeah, for sure. I see.
Yeah.
How you doing? Hey, Bill, you didn't have anything to say. Looks like he disappeared all of a sudden. Shut it right down. Should have spoke sooner.
I gotta go. I'm gonna have to turn it off. 73 guys and gals.
Sorry, see you guys. See you.
Bye, Bill.